Alright, what up, folks? It's your man, 100 Days of Summer. For about a year now, people have been asking me to give more context to my post on systemic racism or police brutality or Donald Trump, Black Lives Matter, any of those kind of things, Republicans, any of that type of stuff. People are very confused by my posts. They don't get the context, so they would like me to further explain. So what I would like to do is kind of give you the gist of it in this video if I can, and then after this video, depending on how things go in the comments, maybe I'll go back over my previous posts from last year and go through the more controversial ones and try to add context to those posts, my perspective, what my intentions were, and also maybe answer some of the comments or just show, the responses to the content. But the main gist of it is this. When George Floyd died, I really didn't care about the police brutality issue. I don't like to live in a paradigm of human shit. To be honest with you, I like to live in a paradigm of being a spirit. I think that that's more powerful, that's more right, that's the higher understanding, that's the one that gives you the most accurate understanding of life and causes you to be the most functional. I think that if you allow yourself to be relegated to a race, then everything that comes with that race is, and see, that makes sense to me because I am an internet marketer. I use sales psychology to manipulate people into doing things. So I understand the power of group identity as far as a hindrance to people, but a benefit to people who use that to manipulate others. So being Black, letting that be the source of your identity has, since I've been thinking this way, has always been a hindrance to me. Anything that has to do with groups and all that type of stuff, because the person who created the industry that I'm in is Edward Bernays. His uncle, Sigmund Freud, learned all about group psychology. Edward Bernays used group psychology in order to create the world that we live in today. So I don't identify as groups, but you can tell the enemy because the enemy tries to break people down into groups. So you have, you see, for example, you see how the Democrats operate? All identity politics. They break people down into groups. Now you can be and it's all about the minority group. So you can be a Black person who is a minority, then you can be a Black woman, right? Then we can take it another step. Now you're a Black trans woman, right? And then if you have a mental health issue, then so now you're in 4 separate groups. This is how they break you down, and it's easier to control you. So if you haven't watched the videos on my page about the color revolutions and stuff like that, none of this stuff really makes sense. If you haven't watched the videos on my page about Edward Bernays, none of this stuff might make sense. If you don't know about self-psychology, then you don't see how it's detrimental to you to identify as groups that way. So I get it. But that is one thing that I am against before George Floyd. So when the George Floyd situation happened, I tried my hardest not to buy into the narrative that has everyone so upset, because I know that when you become upset, what happens is you go into fight or flight. People don't understand that fight and flight, that's the fear response, right? Fight is also a fear response, not just flight. So when people get angry and want to fight, they are afraid. And when a person becomes afraid, what ends up happening is the body shuts down any future building projects, meaning that it shuts down its immune system, it shuts down any of the chemicals that would have you thinking about your future, and they make you focus on now. They make you focus on the current time, they make you focus on your current body, and they make you focus on your current space. All those things relegate you to being very materialistic and anti-spirit, because in fear you have no time to reside in your spiritual self. You take all your energy and you condense it into mass. So then you become more matter, right? More human, more animal. It reduces you to your reptilian brain, right? So that's when you're more easily triggered and manipulated and herded into this area, into that area, just like you would with a scared bug or a scared lizard or something. You can easily herd into this with fear, right? Same thing. Also, what happens is the blood leaves your brain and goes to your extremities so that you can run or fight, whichever one you need to do. What that does is you don't have enough blood in your brain to actually process information in a logical way. So it makes you dumber. So fear turns you into an animal that is easily domesticated and herded, right? So whenever you see a message that is trying to cause you to fear, or because another word for fear is anger. When you want to fight, fighting and flighting are fear responses. So when you see a message that makes you want to fight, ask yourself, why do they want me easily manipulated? That's the question that I asked when I saw the George Floyd video circulating all over. Why do they want us upset? Why do they want us frozen into this vibration so that we can't break through this thing? Why do they want us to feel this way? Because at the time, I believed in the police brutality narrative at the time. And when I asked myself, well, why do they want us this upset? That's when I thought to myself, as a marketer, what are the images that they're showing to us to hijack our imaginations? What are the virtual memories? If you haven't watched these videos, you don't know what I'm talking about. But what are the virtual memories that they're trying to install into us? What are they? As I'm watching this, I'm like, always a white officer, always a black person, an unarmed black person. I wonder if the cops ever killed any unarmed white people. And then I went to Google to search. And the first place I found was the Washington Post. I had no idea what liberal media was or right-wing media, or I had no idea. So the first thing I find is the Washington Post. And then I find this thing that allows me to filter it all down to see the numbers. And the first thing I notice is that, wait, it's more white people killed than black people killed by the police. But I've never heard of any of them. That's because they weren't unarmed. How many unarmed white people? Oh, it's more of them. Wait. The number from 2015 has gone down. Interesting. But this is Trump's presidency. That means the numbers were higher in Obama's presidency. So the numbers are going down. But according to social media and the news, the numbers are going up. They just told me that it was an epidemic of police killing unarmed black men, but here the numbers are going down. And then I look even further and find that from 1970 to now, they've gone down very dramatic. And then the numbers in, I don't want to get this wrong, so look this up for yourself, but the numbers from 1971 in New York, the place that leads the country in statistics, the murder statistics, all that stuff, they the ones that lead. So New York, they're, in 71, I believe, they killed 91 people, the police. And in 2018, I think it had gone down to about 8. Now, you never heard of that. You never heard that it was getting better. So why do they want you upset? Because it's one thing to present all of that information to you and say, hey, police brutality is still an issue, but at least it's getting better. At least you don't have to fear leaving your house every day the way you did in the 70s. At least we haven't found any evidence of racial bias when it comes to police. Why didn't they tell you that? They leave out that information and only show you white people killing black people for what? What is the purpose? What do they want to conjure from you? Because that energy is not destroyed. It's only transformed into different forms. So when you take your energy, when they get that fear energy off of you, what are they using it to create? These are the thoughts that I have when I see this stuff. So my first question was, when was the last time you heard about an unarmed white person being killed by the police? Did you know that the number of deaths has actually gone down? Did you know that? Did you know that more unarmed white people were killed by the police? Can you give me a name of an unarmed white person killed by the police? And in that post of about 200 comments, I think I got about 3 names. 3 names of unarmed white people killed by the police. 3 names. It's interesting because it's supposed to be an epidemic of unarmed black people killed by the police, but we know all their names. If you want to know an epidemic, tell me all the names of the black people that were killed by other black people in our neighborhoods just this weekend. If you want, tell me if that's an epidemic, because you don't know their names. You have no idea. You have no idea what their parents feel. You haven't seen them crying on some podium with Al Sharpton next to them. You haven't seen that. You haven't seen Ben Crump next to them lying about the situation so that he can get a little more publicity. You haven't seen that. You haven't seen anybody trying to capitalize on that. No one's using that energy to do shit. But they can take this handful of cases and then create this narrative, because the narrative is not the truth. police brutality is real, and that's what props up false narratives, because if anyone comes against the narrative and says that's false, they say police brutality is real, I've experienced it. Yeah, but the narrative is false. So when they do a poll and then they ask people along different political spectrums, how many unarmed black people do you think are killed by the police every year? And then one gives a close and accurate number, but then those who are very liberal say 1,000 or more. Well, if in their mind 1,000 or more are being killed, but if the number was actually 27, how did they get from 27 to 1,000? What created that in their mind? What hijacked their imagination and gave them a virtual experience that made them see life this way? And then, because if I thought it was 100, or if I thought it was 1,000, if there was 1,000, everything that happened this last year was justified. If there were 1,000 unarmed black people killed by the police, then everything that happened should be justified. But you don't know 1,000 names. You don't know 1,000 names. You know a handful of names, enough to fill a t-shirt. So if it was 1,000, everything is justified. But is it justified off 27? Because what people will then say is one is too many. Well, if one is too many, then we should really be upset about what happened this weekend in our neighborhoods. An actual epidemic. And who's sucking up all the air? Who's sucking up all the energy? Who's sucking up all the attention, all of the contributions, all of the narrative, all of the murals? Who's sucking all that up and using that for their benefit instead of our benefit? A problem that actually exists in our community. Who's sucking that up? Black Lives Matter, right? Who's sucking up all that energy, and what are they using it to create? What did they get from us? As I've asked you before, Joe Biden got the presidency, Democrats got the House and the Senate. I believe they have basically their own Congress. Kamala Harris, vice president. Black Lives Matter raised 90 million. Let's see, how many? I mean, that's what they use the fear energy to create. George Floyd's family gets millions. You understand what I'm saying? Ben Crump, rich. Al Sharpton, another bag. You see what I'm trying to say? CNN, how much ratings did they get off of our blood? How much did they get? How much did these newspapers and all of these blogs and all of these rage grifters, how much did they get? And then what did we get? This is the reason that I made the post in the first place, is because I saw this. So from that point and on, I was trying to shake people awake. I was trying to show you, look, they have a connection with Maduro, right? Who has the country with the most police killings. A country that literally shoots unarmed protesters in the street for being anti-government. A person who hired his own police force of just pro-government thugs, I guess that's what they call them, who just ride around on motorcycles and shoot people so that they flee the protests. And this is who Black Lives Matter invited to America to honor. So how are they against police brutality? Tell me that. How are they against police brutality when they're against Trump, who did prison reform? You don't have to like Trump. You don't have to like the man, but the policies. Ask the people who are getting out of jail, do they care if it's Donald Trump getting them out or somebody else? It's the fact that this prison reform thing, I believe, was around in Obama's era, but nobody actually did it until Trump. This person actually freed black people out of prison. Joe Biden created a bill to put them in prison. And they went on their website. When you go to Black Lives Matter website, they're telling you to vote. And when you vote, it takes you to Act Blue, which is the donating. It's like the GoFundMe for the Democrats. So why? So they are fighting for these people? Kamala Harris, who fought to keep black men in prison and then used them to put out forest fires for free, and then laughed about smoking weed when she locked men up for smoking weed. These are the people that they cape for to put into office, and you think that they care about us. You think that they're not some political tool that's using our energy. So this is why I made the post. This is why I'll continue making the post. So yeah, I'm about to run out of time. So we can talk about this more in the comments. Let me know what y'all think. And if y'all think I should go over those, make the the follow-up posts where I go over the old posts from the past and add context and go through the comments and stuff. Let me know if y'all want that too. All right, peace.